Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is your course instructor, Dr. Shiza Ayaz from Department of Botany, Division of Science and Technology, University of Education, Township, Lahore. And the topic for today's discussion is thermal pollution, its major causes and effects. Actually, this lecture is a continuation of the previous lecture in which we have studied various sources and causes of thermal pollution. The remaining causes and sources will be discussed in today's lecture. The major cause of the thermal pollution is the soil erosion. As we all aware, with this term, soil erosion is the displacement of the upper layer of the soil. It is one form of the soil degradation. The natural process is caused by the dynamic activity of erosive agents, for example, like water, ice in the form of glaciers, snow, air in the form of wind, plants, animals, and the human beings. In accordance with these agents, erosion is sometimes divided into water erosion, glacial erosion, snow erosion, and wind erosion, and also the anthropogenic erosion. So anthropogenic mean man-made activities की वजह से जो erosion create हो जाती है, यानी जमीन का कटाव, उसको हम simply soil erosion कहते हैं. So basically, soil erosion may be a slow process that continues relatively unnoticed, or it may occur at an alarming rate, causing a serious loss of the topsoil. The loss of the soil from the farmland may be reflected in reducing the crop production potential by lowering the surface water quality and also damage the drainage networks. So, the soil erosion could also cause sinkholes. So, major cause of thermal pollution is the soil erosion is another major factor that causes thermal pollution. Consistent soil erosion causes the water bodies to rise, making them more exposed to the sunlight. And this will be presented by a picture in the coming slides. This high temperature could prove fatal for all the aquatic lives. Hence, it may give rise to the anaerobic condition for all the marine organisms that require oxygen in order to grow and increase their population. Here you can see the picture of the soil erosion. That is the removal of vegetation far away from a stream or the lake can contribute to the thermal pollution by speeding up the erosion of the soil into the water, making it muddy, like here you can see, which increases the light absorbed. So normally it removes the top layer of the soil. Here you can see it is called as the removal of top layer of the soil, and the soil erosion result in siltation and the sedimentation of water bodies. So as a result of these processes like siltation and sedimentation raise the water level, which result in the channel widening. Here you can see there is a widening or a gap between these layers of the soil, and it can also be referred to as the gully erosion. यानी एक pathway सा बन जाता है for the running water, तो जो के soil की दो layers को आपस में separate कर देता है, that is called as this. So this widening, the widening of this area increases the surface area. Hence, the river would receive greater solar radiation, and so the temperature of the water body would also be higher as well. Stream side erosion may also remove vegetation cover along the streams, further exposing the water to the sun's thermal radiations. So another cause of creating the thermal pollution in our environment is the runoff from the paved surfaces. So the paved surfaces refers to a level horizontal surface which is covered with a paving material. For example, a flat surface at right angle to a straight line, like park the car on the level. जिस तरह हम किसी एक स्पेसिफाइड एरिया पे कार को पार्क करते हैं, उसी तरह से यही कुछ surfaces जो है वो paved हो जाती हैं, that may be covered, their surface may be covered with a paving material like the pathways normally cover. और वहाँ पे जितना भी run water है, for example running water from the rain, it also comes and flows through all of that paved surfaces. So the pavement is the durable space material laid down on an area intended to sustain such as roads or the walkways. So urban runoff discharge to the waters from the paved surfaces like roads, parking lots can make the water warmer. During the summer season, this pavement gets quite hot, which creates warm runoff that gets into the sewer system and various water bodies. आप देखें जब गर्मियों में टेम्परेचर बहुत ज़्यादा हाई हो जाता है, तो जो हमारे अक्सर फुटपाथ हैं या इवन हमारी जो रोड्स हैं उस पे हम कभी भी पैदल नहीं चल सकते, because due to the intense heat of sun, जो हमारी pavement है, it quite gets hotter, that create the warmer run of water into the nearby streams and oceans, like this one. And this is the urban runoff from any construction site. Here is another picture showing the runoff from the paved surfaces. Like this is all the urban area जहाँ से ये एक water channel निकल के directly heated water को continuously discharge कर रहा है into the nearby ocean, creating the thermal pollution by increasing the temperature of the water by discharging or releasing the increased or the higher temperature water, heated water. Natural causes. So there are, beside all these primary causes of the thermal pollution, there are many natural causes, including volcanoes and the geothermal activity under the oceans and the seas can trigger the warmer lava to raise the temperature of the water bodies. For example, what is the geothermal activity? That is caused by the transfer of heat from the depth to the Earth's surface. For example, warm ground represents a low level of geothermal activity. The ground temperature is raised at 1 mile depth, but not at the surface. So lightning is another cause, natural cause of creating environmental thermal pollution in our environment. As we all know that lightning is a natural occurring electrostatic discharge during which two electrically charged regions in the atmosphere or the ground temporarily equalize themselves, causing the instantaneous release of as much as 1 gigajoule of energy. और ये जो बिजली कड़कती है, तो if you can imagine, इसके अंदर 1 gigajoule of energy is produced by this lightning process. So as a result of the lightning and other natural causes, overall temperature of the water source or any water body will rise up. That will create a very harsh impact on our ecosystem. like it is the eruption of a submarine volcano which is located in the high island of Hawaii. So you can imagine, if a volcano is erupted, then how much heat is produced in that water in a nearby ocean. Like, so effects of thermal pollution, beside various causes, sources, there are various effects of thermal pollution. Among recognized scholars, there are generally two schools of thoughts when it comes to the effect of thermal pollution. According to some views, the pollution on the marine ecosystem and how it is detrimental to the positive environmental practices. But some said that towards the side that without these industries operating the way they do, then some of the most basic parts of the human life would be completely obsolete. The wastewater would not be able to be properly maintained, and we would have no industries that could produce the goods we need, and so on. The effect of thermal pollution on ecosystem, however, greatly outweigh the benefits that the industries have by participating in the various acts presented by EPA and government. So first effect can be seen in terms of decrease in the dissolved oxygen level, which means that if this low oxygen, dissolved oxygen, capital D, capital O represent the dissolved oxygen. So this low DO primarily result from the excessive algae growth, which is caused by the phosphorus in any water body, and this can result in insufficient amount of dissolved oxygen that is required for most of the aquatic life, as a result of which die-off and decomposition of submerged plants also contributes to the low dissolved oxygen. So the warm temperature reduces these level of dissolved oxygen in the water. The warm water holds relatively less oxygen than the cold water. The decrease in DO can create suffocation for most of the plants and the animals, including fish, amphibian, copepods, which may give rise to create all anaerobic conditions. Warmer water allows the algae to flourish on the surface of water, and over the long term, growing algae can decrease oxygen level in the water. In this way, the level of oxygen is decreased in any reservoir of the water. Increased in the toxins. The toxins in the water are more a side effect of dumping wastewater than a direct effect of thermal pollution. For example, various solvents, fuel oils, and dissolved heavy metals, they are all end up in a lake or the river where the cooling water gets dumped. So the nuclear power plants, they can also release slightly radioactive cooling water. With a constant flow of high temperature discharge from the industries, there is a huge increase in the toxin concentrations that are being regulated into the natural body of water. So these toxins may contain certain chemicals or the radiations that may have a very harsh impact on our local ecology and also make them susceptible to the various diseases. So industries that produce a huge quantity of toxins are the chemicals or the radiations that will entirely affect our ecosystem badly and also create various diseases for all the aquatic or the marine life. Loss of biodiversity. Plants and the certain animals, they will be stuck in the area, which can lead to the huge losses. Migration away from the polluted area contribute to a dramatic loss of biodiversity at sites where the thermal pollutions happens. So a dent in the biological activity in the water may cause a significant loss of biodiversity. Changes in the environment may cause certain species of the organisms to shift their base to some other places, while other could be a significant number of species that may shift in because of the warmer temperatures or the warmer waters. So the organisms that can adapt easily may have an advantage over the organisms that are not used to the warmer temperatures. Another effect which is caused by the thermal pollution is called ecological impact. That is, a sudden thermal shock can result in the mass killing of all aquatic life, including fish, insects, plants, or the amphibians. Hotter water may prove favorable for some of the species, while it could also be considered to be lethal for many other species. The small water temperature may increase the level of activity, while the higher temperature decreases the level of activity. For example, many aquatic species are sensitive to the smaller temperature, and such as 1 degree Celsius can cause a significant change in an organism metabolism and also create various other adverse cellular biological effects. So it will change the metabolic functioning and the biological cellular functioning inside the organism if only a slight degree, only a 1 degree change can is appear to be happen into the water body. It also affects the reproductive system, like the warmer water can reduce the fertility of some organisms. Other species may suffer birth defects or lay deformed eggs because of the chemical changes in the body caused by the warmer water. Thermal pollution can change the biology of aquatic organisms in a variety of the ways. So a significant toll can be considered in terms of reproductive system becomes affected, like the reproduction of marine wildlife. Although this may be true, reproduction can still occur between the fish, but the likelihood of defects in the newborn is significantly higher. So this can also happen due to increasing temperature, as the reproduction can be happen within a certain range of temperatures. For example, excessive temperature can cause the release of the immature eggs, or it can also prevent the normal development of certain eggs. So thermal pollution can also increase the metabolic rate. For example, it increases the metabolic rate of organisms as increasing enzymes activity occurs, so that causes the organisms to consume more food than what is normally required if their environment were not changed. So it increases the metabolic rate of organism as increasing enzyme activity occurs that causes the organisms to consume more food what is normally required. If their environment were not changed, it disrupts the stability of the food chain and also alter the balance of the species composition. Migration. Thermal pollution leads to their migration, create a potential for the new coming species, which in turn can totally change the marine ecosystem feature. The other impact of this phenomenon are, for example, there may be various disorders in the reproduction, nourishment, and various other biological habits. So the warmer water can also cause particular species of the organisms to migrate to the suitable environment that would cater to its requirement for the survival. And this can only be result in the loss of those species that depend on them for their daily food, as their food chain is entirely interrupted. So what could be the control measures? Control of thermal pollution is necessary as detrimental effects on aquatic ecosystem may be detrimental also in the future. So the viable solutions to the chronic thermal discharges into the water bodies are as follows. Number one are the cooling ponds. Actually, these ponds are used where the sufficient land is available as an alternative to the cooling tower or discharging of the heated water to a nearby river or the coastal bay, a process known as once-through cooling. And this process can cause thermal pollution of the receiving waters. So cooling ponds or the reservoir constitute the simplest method of controlling thermal discharge. Heated effluent on the surface of the water in the cooling ponds, they maximize dissipation of heat to the atmosphere and minimize the water area and the volume. This is the most simplest and the cheapest method which cools the water. Which cools the water to a considerable low temperature. However, the techniques alone is less desirable, but it is also inefficient in terms of air-water contact. So the cooling tower is a heat rejection device that rejects the waste heat to the atmosphere through the cooling of the water of a stream to a lower temperature. So using the water from the water sources for the cooling purposes with subsequent return to the water body after passing through the condenser is called as the cooling process. In order to make the cooling process more effective, the cooling towers, they should be used to dissipate the recovered waste heat so as to eliminate the problems of thermal pollution. Artificial lakes. As the name indicates, artificial lake means that these are the man-made bodies of the water which offer the possible alternative to once-through cooling. So the heated effluent may be discharged into the lake at one end, and the water for the cooling purposes may be withdrawn from the other end. The heat is eventually dissipated by the process of evaporation. These lakes have to be rejuvenated continuously. Therefore, a number of methods have been suggested and also developed for converting the thermal pollutants from power plants into the useful heat resources in order to get the maximum benefit by using these processes. So last method to control the thermal pollution is called cogeneration. Cogeneration or the combined heat is the use of the heat engine or the power station to generate electricity and produces the useful heat at the same time. So basic purpose of using this method is to reuse all the wasted heat in order to generate the electricity which is provided to various homes and buildings. So with this, all these precautionary measures or the control methods have been discussed in detail, that how we can utilize these alternative devices or the methods or various technologies in order to control the burning issue of thermal pollution, which is caused by one of the major causes that dissipated all the uh, heated water into the nearby stream, ocean, or lake, that will create all negative impact on our ecosystem and also altered our food chain, and as a result of which the population and many other organisms of our aquatic ecosystem will ultimately be near to extinct, or they may be at the danger of this. So this was all about thermal pollution, major causes, its sources, and the various effects, and various control measures, that how we can control thermal pollution with reference to all possible way out. So here is a list of references. Thank you very much.